Hello, and thank you for spending your time with us today. I'm Ian Hamilton coming to you from Virtual Reality. It's March 25th, 2022, and we're recording this live with an audience on YouTube. I'm using a Quest 2 standalone VR headset to project myself onto this meta avatar and join a virtual recording studio with my guests who are physically hundreds and hundreds of miles away from me. Sitting with me today, I have Between Realities, Alex and Skeeva, who have just returned from a week in San Francisco checking out the latest in VR and AR at GDC. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. This is fantastic. It's amazing to be on this side of the studio. It's amazing in here, people. Trust me. It's a whole thing. It feels like I'm in a studio and I'm loving it.
It does. This is so cool. I'm stoked to be here. Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you. And it's
excited
awesome to
talk
see you
about it.
guys in avatar form versus, how you always appear on your Between Realities podcast. It's like, I know that the avatars, the meta avatars are limited in sort of how you can express. I still haven't gotten mine to really connect, but it's really neat to see your sort of alter egos here. So, hello everyone in our comments. We can see your comments. If you have any questions, let us know and we can read them out and talk about them on our show. But I wondered if you guys could maybe introduce yourselves to our audience, since I think this is the first time you've been in our studio and really had the chance to talk to them directly. Who are you guys and what do you do?
Well, I'm Alex VR. This is Skeeva. Of course, we're Between Realities. We do a weekly VR podcast on Fridays that we host on YouTube primarily, but it's everywhere that you get your podcast, Spotify and iTunes and all that stuff. We really, really love to kind of like take a deeper look at some of the VR and the philosophy and the ethic and moral implications behind it. It's called Between Realities because we do kind of like to take that philosophical approach to a lot of the discussions that we have. That said, every Friday we do have a guest on our show, typically someone of importance from within the world of virtual reality, and they really help make the show what it is. It's fresh every single week. We get new perspectives from developers or YouTubers or publishers or whoever it is that we can get to come and join us, and it is a pretty amazing time. We really have a lot of fun, don't we?
I love it. Wouldn't have it any other way, bud.
And I've thrown up your some of your summary videos of your time at GDC. So can you guys give me sort of a rundown of what were the most memorable demos this week for you? I want to get into, audience is already asking us for Tilt 5 rundowns and the Lynx Mixed Reality rundowns. But I know how hectic these events can be and how they all those demos can blur together. But what sticks in your mind after this crazy week in San Francisco as sort of the things you're going to be thinking about over the next couple months?
We met so many people. We had an absolute blast. 4 days straight of back to back to back to back to back appointments. And we were super busy, but we wouldn't have had it any other way. It was such a good time. And, I want to start with talking about Cosmonius High just a little bit and Alchemy Labs. We had the chance to meet the team from Alchemy Labs and do an interview with them. And I could not believe, like, I never expected the people to truly be as fun and silly and just outward going as their games are. But like, you can absolutely tell that those are the developers of Alchemy Labs games, Job Simulator, Vacation Simulator, and the upcoming Cosmonius High. They are an absolute riot. The demo was really, really good. If you are a fan of Alchemy's work before, Job Simulator and Vacation Simulator, I really think you're in for a treat with Cosmonius High. And am I allowed to like talk about that one at length? I hope so, because I mean, it was really good. And I'll say this, it just builds so much on the formula of what made Job Simulator and Vacation Simulator successful, and brings such a larger environment and such a more immersive environment that I feel like you could really get lost in for a long time. So that's one that I'm definitely excited about.
Awesome. We've got a donation here from Mash Daddy Cool. Said they hung out with you at GDC this week and saying thank you for hanging out. Yeah,
Eric Masher, we love him.
How many parties did you, like, how late did you stay up? I suppose I'll start there. Like, how much sleep did you get this week?
He's muted.
So we got a couple hours of sleep every night, right? So these events are amazing things. You do a lot on the show floor, you see a lot of things, you talk to a lot of people, but the magic of networking happens at night at the after parties, meeting everyone on a more intimate level, talking about their projects and all of these things. So you gotta go do these things, right? I think we were out probably until like 2 a.m. each night, and then back up at 7 or 8 in the morning, and grinding through our appointments, talking to as many people as possible, and it was awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah, we had the opportunity to attend the Zenith launch party on March 23rd, which actually happened to be my birthday as well. So it kind of felt like they were throwing a birthday party for me. It just happened to be Zenith themed and everyone from Zenith was there. But it was fantastic. It was such a good time. The night before, we attended the AIXR, XR Games, and HP Mixer, which you should have seen the guest list of this thing. Like, it was absolutely insane, the people who were slated to be at this thing. And there was a line out the door of people wishing they could come into this party and like bribing the people at the door with $100 bill to try to come in and hang out. And we just looked at them through the windows with our beers and turned back and had a great conversation with all those people. So we really had a great time.
Yeah, Cosmonius High is a great shout out. Like, I'm curious, I really can't wait to dig into that at length. They've done so much with, like, Job Simulator. I don't know how many hours I spent in those original activities, and then Vacation Simulator, I went in there and I spent a fair amount of time, but I wasn't sort of driven to finish each of the activities. Like, I didn't sort of explore all of the lands in Vacation Simulator. And I'm really curious to see how that all ties together with the added powers and all those things that you can do with Cosmonius High. It looks like a lot of fun to have a world that you can shape that much more dynamically.
Totally.
Skeeva, so if Cosmonius High was his most memorable demo, what sort of are you going to keep thinking about? What was your like single demo that you're going to keep coming back to?
The demo that really threw me for a loop was one that I wasn't expecting at all. We met up with these guys in the hall of South Hall or Central. I can't remember. It was one of them, and they pulled out a laptop and they pulled out their headset, and it was an experience called Vertex. And it was one of the most exciting things I've seen in years in VR. And it's an esports arena. And it's like going to a large scale arena, a hockey game, a basketball game, and you're looking down all the rows of seats and you see a game happening. Your favorite esports game is happening right down there. You see the players up on the board, and you see it's like an actual sporting event, and it was one of the most exciting things ever. It's going to revolutionize the way people watch esports.
Truly, we were both absolutely floored. We have spent tons and tons of time in VR. We have been in countless applications and software, and this was something that like we weren't expecting, but I was in the headset and I started exploring the environment. I'm like, oh, this is nice. Wow, this actually looks kind of good. I'm like, wait a second. And then it's like, whoa, I can't believe what I'm seeing here. Like it just like they scale it, and it really feels like you are watching a live esports thing. They were they were demoing an Echo VR match that was happening live on a Twitch stream, but I was watching it as if I was at a stadium, and I could not believe what I was seeing. So keep your eye on Vertex Stadium, because that was, I think, by far for both of us, the one thing that software wise that we saw that absolutely we were not expecting, and really, really blew us away.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to hear more about that. It sounds really intriguing. And it's an idea that's been tried a couple times over the years, but never quite pulled off exactly like, everyone wants or hopes that it should function. So I'd be curious to see if they're able to pull it off this time.
These guys knocked it right out of the park. Absolute home run.
They really did.
And it's a demo that literally came out of a backpack as you're walking down.
Yep.
This isn't a booth. Yeah, those are the best demos sometimes, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They really
One of
are.
the most intriguing things about it for me too was that you immediately think, oh, it's an Echo VR one, or maybe they'll get another, like maybe Knock might be a great option for something like this. But the esports events that you watch in VR at this stadium, which by the way you can share with a ton of people. Like when he was telling us the numbers that they can squeeze into these arenas, I was blown away. But it doesn't even necessarily have to be a VR esports title. Like potentially games like Rocket League or something like that, you could witness like they're happening in front of you in an arena. We were stunned. So I think that was probably the thing that we were most excited about, both of us.
Definitely.
So I've got to get this out because I'm sure some people in our comments will be wondering, but PSVR 2 was shown to some select developers, with people like Chet, formerly of Valve, praising the demo as, quote, one of those VR moments where the world just feels different when you return. How close do you guys think you came to seeing PSVR 2? Was it was it in a secret hallway, or do you have any clue where it was in San Francisco?
It was in some secret room. We exhausted every possible resource to get in this thing. I mean, we contacted everybody, and they just no media, wasn't happening. It was a very exclusive thing, and I'm guessing maybe it was because they didn't have like the actual final shell for the headset. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just guessing, right? But I wanted to see that more than anything. And just didn't happen.
We really did try, like there's a couple of developers that we're friends with, and we're like, hey man, like we're on your dev team, right? Like we're part of your, like we're on that, you know what I mean? Like
I just started last week, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they were like, we're pretty sure they know us. We don't, but like, well, there's one or two guys, there's one guy in particular who was like, let me see what I can do. Like we were like, okay, like crossing our fingers, like thought maybe we would make it happen. Didn't end up hearing from him. Surprise, surprise. So, but shout out to him out there. If you hear us, brother, like thanks for trying, bro. So we tried to get in there. It did not work out. And of course we were pulling our hair out knowing that somewhere in that building, somebody was in a PSVR 2 and it wasn't us.
I know, it's killer, right? Like there's only so many new hardware demos of VR, and it's hiding in some back room, and you just don't know which back room. And you could have physically walked up like past it 30 feet away.
La 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 la.
All right. Two things that you guys did try that I'm really obsessed to hear. Like I've been waiting to hear about Lynx Mixed Reality, and I've been waiting to hear about Tilt 5. I haven't gotten my hands on either of those headsets yet, and both of them seem like really intriguing efforts to go into the AR market, and there's differences there in their approach. You also tried the thinkreality from Lenovo as well, right? But it's a little pricier device. I think it's over $1,000. I'm going to throw this up here. This is you, Alex, in this device. Explain what you're seeing here and why, like how the field of view stacks up against other headsets.
So this demo was Snapdragon Spaces, and it was kind of this like I don't know what is it like a
it's like many rooms. You look around and there's all these mini rooms everywhere, and you can focus on certain points with your gaze and expand the room and go into these different types of environments. Some of them had augmented reality games. Some of them had people watching trailers for movies. There was a whole bunch of different spaces, but you could go into the space, and the little small room that you were looking at became really big, and you were in it, and then you would gaze at the exit sign, and it would shrink back down, and then all of the smaller rooms.
Yeah, kind of like a tech demo, I guess, in a little bit of maybe like a way of like showing off a bunch of the potential applications of the headset and maybe some of the software that you could expect to see in there. One of them shows like a little room with someone like in the kitchen. So you scale down in there, boom, now you're like in that kitchen, and you can kind of see how recipes floating around you would help you cook. You pop back out, and then you go into like the media room where now there's like a big TV and someone's watching a movie there, and then you could scale back up again. And there was a gun game, where you're like blasting these like flying wasps and stuff. And the quality of the images, like the graphics of the image, was actually quite nice. As I was blasting these flying bugs, it looked kind of like you would expect any other video game to. Like it didn't look like some like like old school lawnmower man kind of thing or anything like that. So it did look really, really nice. As far as field of view goes, this definitely is an improvement to some of the stuff that we saw a couple years ago at CES and VRX. For me, field of view is by far the most important thing when it comes to the AR experience. Like a lot of these headsets have this kind of postage stamp vibe going, where like within this postage stamp you see a great image, but outside of it it's all getting cut off, and you kind of have to be willing to use your imagination to fill in the gaps on the outer edges of the border. With this, it wasn't perfect, but it was certainly better than a lot of what we've seen so far. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. And there's some things in this headset that really, really surprised me. So we've experienced a lot of different AR headsets, right? We've used Unreal, we've used HoloLens, HoloLens 2, the Magic Leap, headsets that people wouldn't even know what they are, right? We've seen a lot, but I was really, really surprised at the quality of the image in this headset. Most of the time, with see-through lenses that are putting things into your environment, you will be able to see through the images that are artificially placed in your environment, like they're holograms. I was so surprised to see that they got these things solid. There were items in the environment that were completely solid. You couldn't see through them. They weren't holographic, and they looked absolutely phenomenal. So it was really exciting. These are probably, for this style AR headset, this is probably the most promising one I've ever seen.
This style being one of the key things, right? Like,
Yeah.
because there are so many different styles and efforts. Is it a very shaded view to begin with? Like, is it much darker view of the room through the lenses, just
Kind
to
of.
begin with?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Not compared to like sunglasses. You know what I mean? It's like definitely easier to see through these things than your typical pair of sunglasses, but it probably does kind of gray the space out a little bit. Like you are looking through some glass, and that is not without, like, you can tell that you're looking through glass. It kind of distorts the image slightly. It's not like looking through a window. But that being said, it's not too bad. It's a little grayed. It is a little bit darker, but not overwhelmingly so.
Yeah, and our comments are reacting to the price being so high, and I think that's why I want to get right to the Lynx Mixed Reality headset, because you did talk to Stan LaRoque at Lynx, and he said that their SDK will be out soon, and that they're aiming to have the first headsets to buyers between June and July. So Lynx is a... Let me get this video here.
Man, you're hosting and pulling all of the bells and whistles over there too. Ian, ladies and gentlemen, he's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, I love this. I clipped this video out from your footage because you show the hand tracking getting picked up on this little mirror image. Now, these have the weirdest lenses that anyone has seen out of any kind of headset period. So you aren't actually seeing this weird cutout. This is like put together for you in software, right? But
Yes.
how good does this look to you as you're actually using this?
It looks great. To be honest, I put the headset on and demoed it, and like enjoyed it and had some fun with it before I realized what I was dealing with those lenses. Like, it was only after I pulled the headset off and like saw the lens sitting there on the table and picked it up that I was like, wait a second, like this is what's in there. Like I was certainly pleasantly surprised by the image that I saw. What do you think, Skeeva?
It was the weirdest lens I had ever seen, but as soon as you put it on, everything comes together perfectly. It looked great. It was super clear. I didn't see any edge distortion. They really nailed it. I guess they've been working on this for years, and these are custom lenses, custom to them, and they absolutely crushed it.
So
really
is the line visible when you're actually in there?
No,
No line at all?
No.
looks like
And
any
they
other VR
are
headset.
super lightweight and plastic. Like, I couldn't believe it. This like super lightweight piece of plastic. Like, it feels like a kid's toy or something in your hand. Like, I was really, really surprised.
And they have the battery on the back of this Halo design, right, to keep the weight balance and put as much as they can on the backside. But these are the Lynx Mixed Reality headset, and they call it mixed reality, and that's because they're providing an opaque, blocked off view and then recreating it with computer vision, basically, right?
Yes. And there's a very cool moment in this demo where you kind of start inside like an environment sphere, your outer space. So you're inside of the sphere, and it's like a 360 image of stars and all of that stuff. And there's a floating solar system in front of you, which we saw in some of that footage there. You reach out, you can grab the sun with your finger tracking and yeet the planets off into the universe if you want to. And the then Stan was like, okay, just go ahead and start taking a few steps. And as you do, you cross the threshold from the sphere of the environment that you were in and walk into the real room. And like, there's the image of the room around you, like in full color and really, really like it looks great. Also, so low latency. At the very beginning of that footage that you showed was me shaking Stan's hand. And I was like, dude, put your hand out. Like, let's go for a handshake. And I was wearing the headset using the pass through, and I went after him with like a legit, like full force, like flying in hot handshake. And boom, like made perfect connection, felt great, shook the dude's hand, like no problem. And I had a headset on the whole time.
Yeah, let me show that video again, because that is exactly what I was sort of clipping out from this footage here, was this fun moment where you can see the computer vision still keeping up with your hand up until the moment, like it's still got like a model of your hand right up to the moment it's hitting the other person's hand. And the fact that you're doing that and reaching out for this person's hand without actually having a real view of your surroundings is kind of like a really great proof of how well this works.
Yep, absolutely. It was, I mean, it felt like I was shaking his hand, but I had a blindfold on, for all intents and purposes. So, yeah, I was absolutely impressed with my demo. What are your thoughts, Skeeva?
I thought it was really, really impressive. The transition between virtual reality and augmented reality was seamless. When you are, we talked a little bit earlier about how typically you'll see an augmented reality image in space, and it's usually somewhat, see through, not always super convincing, but it was, I mean, perfect. What you were seeing in AR, the images that they put in there and the things they put in there, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it looked like it was in the room. It was super wild. The field of view is killer, right? About 110 degrees field of view, but in augmented reality, that's not a common thing at all. So to
Right.
be able to see things in your environment that aren't there in full 110-degree field of view was absolutely awesome. The headset was super, super light. It was balanced perfectly. The most shocking thing for me to see it in real life was how small it actually looked. I feel like you can't really get a good idea of how tiny this thing is until you actually hold it in your hand.
Yeah, it's
Very,
almost like
very
an
thin.
oversized pack of cards on the front of it. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just like, it's such a
Yep.
small little thing, dude.
And they just nailed the balance. You put this thing on your head. There is no battery in the front. The only battery is in the back. And it just feels like you're wearing a baseball cap or something. It's bananas. It really
Stan
is.
told us that this heads like, because we were commenting on how light it was. We're like, dude, this feels so light. Like, this is fantastic. And he's like, guess what? It's the exact same weight as the Quest 2. And we were like, what? Like, you got to be kidding me. He's like, it's
Yeah.
all about balance. Like, taking the battery out of the front, putting it in the back, spreading things out, and boom, like it feels way, way lighter, but it's actually the exact same weight.
Yeah.
We've got Bradley in our comments here. Thank you for tuning in. And I'm obsessed with this video and like the thinness of this. Like it is incredible to me the way it flips up, how thin it looks. The fact that we can see inside the components on this particular model is so much fun. Like that is the fan right there in the middle, isn't it? Isn't there a fan
Yep.
there?
Yep.
Kind of nuts how much you can see in it going on inside this thing. And Heaney has been going on about this month after month in our studio, where he's been talking about this as a really, really interesting indie effort to compete against what some of these giants are doing, because this small company has been affected by the component shortage, just like so many others, and it has affected, I think, their price. But still, it's I think $500 to $600 range is the price that they're going for, and it's got this such an unusual a system where you could connect, like they are going to team up with Finch, I think, to try physical controllers, but there's hand tracking built in, and they're trying to have a very a mixed reality headset like we might expect out of Cambria down the line from Meta, but an independent sort of solution built on OpenXR and trying to come at this from a very different part of the market than Meta is going to come at it from. So I think a lot of people in our audience are really interested in this, and I'm so glad that you guys tried it out. Do you think this is going to be something that people should really consider as soon as they're like sort of caught up on their shipping, and this is something that people should go out and buy?
So real quick, I want to elaborate on the hand tracking, right? So, the Quest has hand tracking, as you can see here, and it uses cameras to kind of identify your hand and uses machine learning and algorithms to figure out where your hands are and what you're doing. The Lynx has Ultraleap built in, and Ultraleap is amazing technology. It's some of the best hand tracking you can get. So it is absolutely incredible hand tracking, the best I've ever used. And it's built right in. There's no, typically a lot of times with these things, you'll see, an add-on where you have to plug it in a USB port and it sticks on the headset, but this is built in. So it's super great. It is a little bit more expensive than the Quest, but from what Stan says, there is absolutely no data mining happening here. They're not collecting your data. They're not selling anything off to kind of be able to make the headset cheaper, right? They are building a headset and selling it to you, and that's what you're getting. And from what I saw, if I could imagine that there were controllers and good controllers, and if I imagine that this thing had a catalog like the Quest, this is a home run. I would buy this in a second. And I probably still will, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
That was something I heard Stan LaRoque talk about in his interview with you guys, where he's saying that you should get, if you can, in our comments even, people talking up the ability to bring normal controllers potentially to this, and then have your traditional Steam VR games with this, as well as a new class of mixed reality experiences that provide you a great view of your physical room, and then layer on stuff on top of that. And that's people in our comments are really excited about that. And thank you so much for the donation, Norman. Norman Robinson out there is saying he's calling it Meta's Cambria is a Lynx R1 clone. That's a funny. I like that way of viewing things. I don't know about that. I think they're parallel development, but I like the sentiment nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
this is huge. It's
Yeah.
a big deal, this headset. It really is. I see a bright future for it. If they can get software developers to create experiences for this, then this is going to be a home run.
Well, and the thing is too, man, like Stan knows what he's up against,
Yep.
like he knows exactly what's happening, and he is like inspired to bring the consumers an option. He's like, this is going to bring more options for the consumers who don't want to participate in some of the stuff that the larger corporations that bring these headsets to us do. So I was inspired after talking with him, and I'm very excited for the trajectory of all of this, because I really do think that this headset is being made with integrity, and it's being made by someone who truly cares about the people who are going to be using this technology.
One of the details I loved was there were 300 individual pieces packed into this device, and I can almost see like 150 of them just from this image. But yeah, it's crazy how much engineering they've put into this and how hard that is to go up as a small team against what Facebook is doing.
Literally, the first question I asked him when I met him after seeing this headset was, how? Like, and his answer was black magic. He was like, it's black magic at this point, man. Like, if we knew how hard this would have been when we started, we wouldn't have done it. But here it is. They did it. And I'm really excited to see what happens with this.
Yep.
Well, let's move on to Tilt 5 here. And if you have any questions or comments specifically for Alex and Skeeva, let us know down in the comments, and we'll read them out after we get to this next subject. But Tilt 5 announced their launch lineup this week as part of GDC. And for those that aren't familiar with Tilt 5, it uses a proprietary AR glasses system that was first developed, I think, all the way back at Valve a long time ago. And then it got spun out as a startup called Cast AR. Cast AR had a multi-year story where it raised a lot of money and then ran out, and basically got refounded as Tilt 5 here. And this is the latest version of these glasses. Went and raised $1.7 million on Kickstarter in 2019, and they're currently shipping these out to their Kickstarter backers and getting through a significant amount of shipping to those Kickstarter backers. I think there's like thousands of them. And now they're taking orders for new people be after the Kickstarters in Q2 of this year. So the kits start around $360 or so. You'll need a PC2 to play a Tilt 5 device. And this is the only image I have right now to throw up and talk about Tilt 5. But it is another innovative, unusual system. Do you guys want to explain how it works and what your experience was with it?
Start us off, man.
So there's a lot of really good things about this, and there's a lot of not so good things, but I really, really, really enjoyed this. The wow factor on this thing is through the roof. I mean, you put these glasses on, they feel good, and you look at the board, and all of a sudden, you can see into the board. There's depth. The picture looks amazing. The gameplay for what we tried was really good. There wasn't any noticeable latency. It was killer. Again, wow factor was absolutely incredible. We're looking here at a game with 3 people sitting around a board. This isn't really what Alex and I experienced. So from talking to the people that were in the booth, each set of glasses needs its own PC, which right there I was like, whoa, that's interesting. And I get it. I get the compute power that these things take to create these graphics, because the graphics are really good on what we're looking at. But to have 3 people here, realistically, from what we were told, you would need 3 computers all networked together running this experience. And that's not very practical. Also, there are some supply chain issues happening, which are happening with everything across the board. So right now you get 1 pair of glasses when you order this thing, and you cannot buy glasses separately. You have to buy a whole new kit if you want to play with your friends. So there's some really cool things about this. It looks incredible. It plays incredible. But if you want to do what's happening in this picture right here, it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been talking to Jerry Ellsworth over there at Tilt 5 for a long time, trying to get a grasp on how they're going to bring the price down on this, because this is still very much in the enthusiast territory, right?
Mhm.
And given the prices that you're talking about. But there is kind of a pathway where these glasses could theoretically get powered by phones down the line, or you could maybe hook up multiple devices to a single device,
Absolutely.
single PC.
Mhm.
But, to your point, I don't think they've actually gone through and done those steps yet to get all of that performance where it needs to be to have that kind of setup. And I'm seeing some people in our comments sort of trying to understand what they're doing. So what Tilt 5 does is they have a special material down on the table there in the center of that table that reflects light back at the glasses wearer, and it produces the illusion of depth. But you can't have anything come off of that table up very high without getting that illusion breaking problem you have with all of the other field of view headsets, where you feel like the portal to the wall is cut off like a postage stamp. You lose your sense of presence. You don't really believe that the object over there is really real. And anything coming up of this table is going to have that kind of trimming off of it. They do sell, I think, in some of their other kits, like the expanded kits, like a board that you can put up behind the back of it to provide you some height. But I like this particular demo because I would imagine most developers are going to try to produce that kind of like tabletop depth of this almost like room on the underside of your table where all these magical things happen. What games did you specifically try on this?
There was a handful of games, and they kind of like went through, like a variety of different styles of gameplay and like different control schemes to kind of show off the different ways that this could potentially be used. I want to start by talking about before I can talk about the games, I think I need to talk a little bit more about the headset itself. We were talking earlier about like that postage stamp thing of headsets, right, where it's kind of getting cut off on the edges of this projected image. But because you're looking down at the postage stamp, the whole bottom, I mean, I'm going to say 85-90% of the glasses space is actually projecting the image, right? So everything that I expect to be there when I look down at this table is. It's not like being cut off on the edges like so many other AR headsets are. And one of the cool things that they kind of did is, you were talking about that board that you can buy. Well, they grabbed a piece of that material and kind of came and connected it to like the outer edge of the box that we were playing around, and like boom, the world just instantly grows over to that other thing.
Mhm.
And immediately I'm thinking, okay, well, you just coat a whole room in this stuff. If like the whole room looked like that, then everything would be, you could see it all. So I was really impressed by just how much you actually can see in this headset. And the other thing to mention is these controllers. The controller, seriously, is a barbecue grill lighter with an analog stick and push buttons on it. If you've ever had that long barbecue grill lighter, that there you go, like it is that. It feels exactly like that in your hand. So there's a couple of games where it's kind of like a Jenga tower, and you use it, like you would an Oculus controller, right? Pulling the trigger and shooting at the Jenga tower to knock the blocks down. But then you turn that thing sideways, use the analog stick and the buttons to play like a Diablo style, like dungeon crawler, where you're killing the monsters that are coming out of the woods at you.
Yeah, very Wiimote.
Yeah,
well.
very,
Yeah,
very
like-
Wiimote.
Mhm.
I noticed I went over
Absolutely.
and looked at the Tilt 5 website while we were in here, and they do have the little Android logo on their order page. So I think they are trying to support Android, but it is one of those things where this is kind of, again, I think the cutting edge of what you can get in AR, right? If you really want a development platform or to experiment with a form factor and like a different way of doing AR than almost anyone else is doing, this is an amazing platform to try out your product on. And that's what Tilt 5 did announce this week, was all of their launch titles. So Figment XR, Floating Farmer, Hexstone, Spacetime, Magic Colors, QB Planets, Tinker Racers, Bombbots Arena, Battle Map Studio, Space Merchants, Tabletopia. This one is kind of a big one. It's a sandbox virtual table with high quality board games made by professionals. So there's like 1,000 games you can access through Tabletopia. And I was looking through some of the other descriptions for some of the other games that are on this system at launch, and I was laughing at a couple of these. Ho Ho Home Invasion. This year, due to social distancing requirements, Santa can't undertake his normal training. Help Santa complete his training ahead of the Christmas period by sneaking through all 5 house layouts to deliver presents in record time. So I love that idea that like you have little dioramas. Like I imagine most of the games are going to feel like little miniature dioramas playing out in front of you, and there's lots of little puzzle games that they can do that way. And then this one that's pictured up here is the awakening of mummies. The mummies are trapped inside the pyramid where the evil pharaoh Cleo has imprisoned them. Use your puzzle solving skills to guide all the mummies through the various chambers while watching out for traps.
So here's the thing with this. This is actually quite a social experience. Like we were talking, you asked me earlier how, like, what's it like to look through the glass of that the other headset. This is like clear. I was looking across the table at Skeeva when I wasn't looking at the board, and he was sitting there with me clear as day. So this vibe that they're trying to capture right here is actually pretty legit. Like you could actually do this. Like it would feel like you were sitting there at the table with them and experiencing that virtual thing on the table while still being able to pick up a slice of pizza and eat it, and like look at someone across at the other room and say hi to them. Like it really is an augmented reality experience that has this layer of social to it that is basically, I've never seen anything like it before. The thing that just needs to happen, like in my opinion, in order for this to be truly successful, these games have to be truly fun. Like the cool factor is incredible, right? And like we were blown away by what we were seeing, but you play the game for a couple of minutes, you're like, okay, this was cool, and that's about it. Like if they find a way to create a game or two or three that has this hookability to it that like gets people to like really want to come back and that one more game kind of thing. Maybe something like the Jackbox series of like Quiplash, where people are just having so much fun, just rolling and laughing. And man, this is such a good time. If they can find something that can deliver an experience like that, I think that this might actually have some legs to stand on. I can also see this experience, this kind of experience existing in somewhere like a barcade, where like over at that table they just have it set up, and everybody grabs a beer and goes and sits down and does a few rounds of it, and then gets up and moves on to something else. So that is really where I could potentially see this being used and people enjoying it, more so than like us buying it and setting it up at our house and trying to play it that way.
Yeah, this could have some great commercial use because, honestly, it requires multiple computers, right? So it's going to be really hard to get an experience like this at home where you have a couple of PCs going and your friends playing. That being said, I mean, content, like you said, really is king. You can have the best, coolest device in the world, but if there's nothing on it, it's a paperweight, right? Now they have some games coming out. I don't, I only played 3 short little things of a few of these games, but I can imagine sitting there playing like Demio on this thing. Something like that, something like a Diablo, or
Yeah.
I mean, it would really be a magical experience. And when you do look at this thing, it is so cool. I mean, it's like you're looking through a portal. Like, now there's a hole in your table, and you're really looking down into this game happening. And having something like this at barcades would be incredible, right? It's just some material on this board. You could totally spill a beer on it and just wipe it off, and you're good to go. So this could be fantastic for businesses. At this time, you're not going to just buy this, get some glasses, put it on the table, and have fun with your friends and your family. You're going to have to be a little bit of a techie and spend some money.
You know what it
But
reminded me
it's
of,
cool.
dude? If you guys ever do the AR experiences with the 3DS, where you like put that card on the table and you
Yeah.
look through the 3DS and like
Yep.
stuff comes up and it flies around. It's so much like that. Like looks like it, feels like it, like fun like
Yeah.
that. But of course, it's a heads up display.
Yeah.
It's it's on a headset. So yeah, that was like my first instinct when I saw this. I was like, oh, this really reminds me of like that AR kind of thing that stuff like the 3DS was trying to do. But of course, through augmented reality glasses, which of course is way cooler.
Tons and tons of potential here.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's funny to me, like there's so many people that hem and haw and talk about like the terminology for all these technologies, and it's so overblown to talk about those things. But Tilt 5 very much owns the fact that they're an AR technology company. This is an AR experience. You put on these things, you're going to have a very specific type of gaming experience where you can look down on a board and see incredible amount of depth anywhere you want down into that board, and you can do a lot with it. People in our comments talking about how it's interesting to think like your board game collection, if you could somehow combine it or replace it, like you could have an added on experience to your traditional board games that like completely change a game you already love and play every single day. This could just make it a lot more interactive and even more exciting than I guess the plain version that you're traditionally familiar with. And then of course the mixed reality one that we just saw before, that headset is going to be such an incredible experience when you can layer on VR with AR on top of it, right? And I've got it right now with the Quest, but it's terrible, right? I hate that black and white view around me, and it's not fun to look at for more than, I don't know, 30 seconds before I kind of want out of that view. And how long do you think you could last in either of these particular systems, the Lynx and Tilt 5?
I'm going to say for the Tilt 5, I don't think there would be a limit.
Yeah.
I didn't experience any eye strain. Granted, I was only in there for about 30 minutes, right? But it looked amazing. The glasses were very light. I didn't want to pull them off my face. I can imagine being in there for hours and hours. Absolutely no problem. The Lynx, I could be in there for a very long time, but at the end of the day, it's still a VR headset. And, you might have, eye strain like you normally would. But, we didn't really get to to go in there for hours and hours to really be able to tell. But this, yeah, I would say long periods of time if I had
Yeah,
to
you
guess.
know, a lot of AR headsets have this like really like front heavy thing going on. You know, like you put them on, it almost feels like they just want to jump off of your face right away. They put a lot of love, and they were talking to us about this too. Like they really put a lot of love in like getting that weight down, balancing it out right, and making it feel like a pair of glasses should feel when you put it on. So I actually agree with you, Skeeva. I think they were really, really comfortable, and I could crush a round of Demio in this without question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a chicken and the egg problem with Demio, and I'm really curious where like they've clearly picked the platforms that can actually move significant numbers of units for Demio, and I don't know if Tilt 5 is going to be able to match that kind of numbers, because one of the things that happened with Cast AR is they tried to pack too many features into that original design when they went from Kickstarter or crowdfunding actually to shipping that device. They just tried to do too much in that early phase. And I think what we're seeing with Tilt 5 is them zeroing in on a very specific use case of board games and building for people who love board games and the enthusiasts who will have an entire, bookcase full of board games. This is going to be an amazing complement to that at the end of the day. But it's still not going to be necessarily something everyone goes out and buys at this point, because they've got to build out so much additional things like we've talked about, like Android support, and having these glasses run off of a phone is going to be kind of necessary before they can reach
It's
a
going to be
much
critical.
larger group of people. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely critical. You need to be able to sit down at a table with your friends. Everyone needs to put on a headset, and you need to be able to play this stuff with other people. I mean, that's what this is really made for. And yeah, we need to get to that point. Once we're at that point, there would be no problem. I'd buy this in a minute. It's really, really cool. But I want to play this with people. I do not want to play this by myself. And
This is not for a
practical
consumer,
at the
honestly.
moment.
In my opinion, this is not for. I mean, it's for consumer use, but it's not for consumer purchase. You know, like I can. If this was sitting in the corner of my favorite barcade, I would definitely go over there, throw the headset on, play around or whatever, and enjoy it. You know, and because they would have the computers, they would have the multiple headsets, they would be willing to invest a little bit more. But consumers, there's absolutely no way, in my opinion, that they would be able to get any value out of this right now. Not that they wouldn't have fun. I mean the word value. Like I just really don't think.
And a
that the value
multiplayer
is there.
level, right?
Right,
Like if you
right,
want to
right,
sit
right.
around and do things by yourself, that's fine. You're probably gonna have a really good
And then
experience.
you might really,
especially-
really like it.
Yeah, yeah. But if you want to do this socially, which clearly is what they're really going for here, right? At this time, no. But they're continuing to innovate, and I think they're working towards this vision, and I hope they get there.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's really cool.
I'm seeing
Really
a
cool.
couple people in our comments asking about full body tracking, and an earlier comment I saw asking about vests. Did you see any vests while you were there? And did you see any full body tracking, and what was that like? If you did see
I
that.
got to try the Skinetic Fest for the first time. They were demoing it at CES when I was there working with Haptics, which is, of course, another Haptics Fest. And a couple of my colleagues got to try it, but I was pinned down at the booth and I didn't get to go. So at GDC, they were also demoing, and we were just cruising around the floor, and Skeeva and I look over, boom, there they are. And we were like, hey. So I stopped by and I had a chance to throw it on, and I did their show floor demo with the Skinetic Fest, which I think you had already tried once before, right?
I did. And I really liked it. It was the way I kind of explain the difference between like a Skintech vest and Haptics vest is like you almost have that rumble from a PS4 controller is kind of what I would kind of associate with the Haptics vest. But then you have that pinpoint accuracy of the haptics, almost like a Nintendo Switch controller. You know how those different haptics are very, very different, but the PS4 controller is very, it gives you a very heavy rumble. You know it's there. You can't ignore it, right? It gets as intense or as low as you want. The Skinetic vest it feels amazing, but it's very light. They really need to be able to crank it up at least double what it currently can do, in my opinion. But it feels incredible. The types of sensations are really, really neat. Rain in that thing feels absolutely amazing. I thought it was super, super cool. It's a comfortable vest. I'm a big dude. I had no problems getting it on and being comfortable in it. And I thought it was really, really nice. At the moment, it has a wire, which is an issue. But as they go through their Kickstarter and they're working on this thing, it's supposed to be wireless, right? Which is obviously critical. The other thing with it, if you're going to compare something like this kinetic vest to be Haptics, is content. Like we were just saying, content is king. You can get a be Haptics vest. You can play hundreds of games with this thing, like hundreds. I mean, you're going to find something in your library it works with. Skinetic, they have a very uphill battle in front of them with trying to get developer support for this. And if they can, be an extremely viable option, and it'll be really, really cool. I really liked the way the haptics feel in it. And we'll just have to see what they can pull off as a company. Are they going to be able to get developers on board?
If they can increase the intensity of the haptic vibrations, get the content, and offer it at a competitive price point to the other nameless, I don't know, I feel like this is such a conflict of interest conversation for me, but it's like if they can make it comparable, I absolutely believe that people will then have a choice, right? It's like not gonna, like, they'll be able to choose which one they want. It's like there's something to be enjoyed about the haptic sensations that you're getting on the Skinetic vest, and there's something to be enjoyed about the other vests that are out there too. So, but those will have to happen. If the price can't come down, if they can't get the content, they can't make it wireless, then I'm afraid it's probably going to have a really tough time struggling, or it's probably going to struggle in the VR community at least.
And it's the same with OO, right? OO was there as well. We didn't get any footage, but I did get to try this. I think we both got to try it at CES.
Yeah.
And OO is kind of like a skin tight shirt. It's almost like what kind of material would you kind of call that? It's very stretchy.
It's like a wetsuit.
Yeah, kind of like wetsuit material. Very much. It's really cool. It's really cool tech, and it uses kind of like these electrical impulses to kind of shock your muscles, and it can get very, very intense. But you can also turn it down to normal levels too, and that is also super amazing. But I don't know how many of these things are developers going to want to go in and do. What we need, in my opinion, is like we have OpenXR, which kind of brings the different input scenarios from different controllers into one set, right? Where you can develop one VR game. Here's the buttons, and it's supposed to kind of work across, different kinds of controllers. We need that for haptics, right? We need one, kind of like an open haptic system where everyone can kind of make their haptic solutions attached to that, and then we'll be good. Because right now everyone has to implement each individual company, and developers don't have all the time in the world. They're trying to work on their games, trying to fix bugs, improve things, add content, and it's a hard job. So see what happens.
One of our comments brought up a really good point about Tilt 5. I think that those headsets might pair really, really well with the Steam Deck. And of course, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous to imagine having 4 people with Steam Decks just to have a game together in there. But it's still, I can imagine that being a route down the line for this type of use case.
Especially if it was able to be used as the input as well, right? Like what if you had a screen display there that you could like push buttons that would make things happen on the game board, like that was like a integrated and part of it, then actually, I think that would be extremely
great.
Good. Yeah.
And then Kyle has brought this up. He's pointing out that Skeeva, you're a bespectacled individual, and he wants to know how your glasses worked with the Lynx and I guess also Tilt 5.
They worked great with both, actually. There were no issues with me using my glasses with the Tilt 5. It felt great. I didn't feel like I was really sacrificing much field of view, although I'm sure if I took them off and really pushed them up against my eyes, right, it maybe would be a little better, but I could see everything I wanted to see at all times. So it didn't matter. I was very comfortable with them on. It was fantastic. And even more so with the Lynx. So when we were demoing the Lynx, we were doing VR/AR experiences. So having the side pieces off allows you to see the peripheral vision of the real world, which kind of adds to the whole field of view experience of of the AR experience you're getting from the Lynx, because you're seeing the world in full color, high definition color, with objects inside in 110-degree field of view, but your actual peripheral vision is the real world, right? Now you can snap on a little thing that blacks out the sides of the headset, and turns it more into a conventional VR headset. But I did not try that. So my glasses felt great in that Lynx headset. There was nothing, I wasn't like smushing it in like I would with a Quest, or any of these other headsets where I'm kind of jamming my glasses into the little box, inside the headset. It was a very comfortable experience. I didn't feel like I was sacrificing anything wearing my glasses.
Yeah, I really, we should have like leaned into those side things because I wasn't even thinking about it while we were doing our
Mhm.
demo. I was just like, we were doing the AR/AR experience. So I'm like constantly going back and forth between AR and VR.
Yeah.
But it would have
Yeah.
been really great to just like go into VR exclusively for a little while and get those blinders on the sides and like compare it like as a Quest. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because the Link isn't a Quest. It's there's a lot more going on there, but to be used as a Quest, I would like to get those blinders on the side to see just how that FOV actually is, because like you said, it's advantageous to not have them there for AR experiences, but for VR, you don't want to be seeing the sides of the room around you, right? So,
Right. Right.
I think that those blinders probably would just make it feel fantastic and just suck you into the VR experience. But we didn't get to put them on, so next time I see the Lynx, I'm definitely going to be snapping those things on the side.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love that's such a great way of describing the differences there, because like with the Lynx, you want to put blinders on the side to turn it into a VR experience. Whereas something like the Think Reality or even the Tilt 5, like you have to block off your view in front of you in order to turn it into a VR experience. And that's just not how some of those things are really going to be usable. But I guess I'm curious if you guys have any closing remarks or closing thoughts about your week at GDC. You've seen a lot. I don't know if we've covered all of the high points here. Skeeva, I think we'll start here with you. Is there any last demos that you wanted to sort of get across to everyone out there that were really memorable for you this week?
So, man,
Or conversations, right? Did you hear anything interesting?
The hardware, the things we talked about were really the main things. There were a lot of good games. There were a lot of good people to meet. There was a lot of fantastic networking, and the show itself is just so incredible. It's such a huge thing, and being together with all of your people, in a giant convention that celebrates video games, was super awesome. But like Alex was saying earlier, it was like back to back to back to back things. There was so many games, there was so many things, and to talk about all of those all in one show, this would be like a 10-hour show. We saw so much, but the highlights that we brought up were really, I think, the best. That we
Yeah,
got to see.
I was being the one like with the microphone in front of the camera the whole time, like, and because we were on such a tight schedule, most of the software demos I was doing those, because Skeeva would be filming me, and then boom, headset comes off, go microphone, here's the interview, bam bam, see you later, we're out of here. So I got to play a handful more games. Altair Breaker, the multiplayer experience from the developers of Swords of Gargantua, made me feel awesome, made me feel like I was a super awesome fighter in an anime, and I was wishing I could play it as a multiplayer experience. So I think if you're into combat in VR and you want to do something with your friends, definitely look forward to that. I also really enjoyed my demo of a game called No More Rainbows. We met Eric from No More Rainbows, which is the Squiddo Studios is the developer there. A really fun take on the gorilla tag mechanic of slapping around, and they kind of created this fun atmosphere, and I think that game is probably going to be awesome when it comes out. So No More Rainbows was another title that I really enjoyed trying. So you can look forward to those two titles as far as software demos go. But Skeeva mentioning the community, like, it is incredible to meet all of these people who bring all of these experiences to us. They are so passionate, and we are enthusiastic because we love all of this stuff, and they're enthusiastic because they're building it, and they like to get our feedback, and everybody's just like feeding off of the energy of each other and celebrating it and working together to help make all of this as successful as we possibly can. And I'm so grateful for all the connections that we were able to make, and to be there as UploadVR correspondents was an absolute honor. We were so proud to be able to represent Upload at this event, and we can't thank you guys enough for making that possible for us.
Thank you guys for going. And in our comments, everyone is really responding to just how great you guys were over the course of the week, getting into everything you did. Thank you so much for attending. It was a bummer for me. I have lots of great memories at GDC of seeing it over the years, and even at the beginning of the show, some of our commenters were like, "Did it feel like a ghost town a little bit?" Because it did seem like the attendance was different than I guess it used to be back in pre-COVID times. But it was also this kind of is the first major conference that I can think of that has brought the gaming community together since in 2 years now. So it
Totally.
was amazing to have you guys there to witness that and see that coming together for the first time in such a long time.
This was me and Alex's first GDC. We've been to CESs and VRXs and just all of these different conferences, and they're all amazing. But so we don't have like the prior GDC to kind of compare the two. It felt like there was a lot of people there, but we were talking to other people that have been going to all of them, and they're like, "Wow, there's so few people here." So I can't imagine what it would have been like at absolute full capacity. But it was very comfortable. I didn't feel like we were pushing through crowds of people. Some of the lines to get in were absolutely bananas. I mean, they must have been a half mile long just to get your badge. So I can't imagine if it were at full capacity how you would even go about even getting in a timely manner. But
yeah, a lot of people
great.
said it was like
great.
a third. They're like, this is about a third, of maybe what we would have seen on other years, but it's so nice. They were like, oh, we can breathe, like we can get to everywhere we want to go. So the vibes were great. We had an amazing time meeting everyone, and see you at GDC 2023.
All right. Well, thank you guys again. Thank you so much for the time. That's Between Realities out there at GDC for us this week. Thank you so much for the incredible work. We ran out of time at the end of this week to do one more wrap-up video. We should have one more early next week, and then more content as we dig into all your videos and all the news you were able to surface. Again, thank you for tuning in with us today. We'll be back next week with the normal news show on Tuesday with me and Heaney, and then we should be back with the game show on Thursday. And be sure to tune in to Between Realities. Thank you guys so much for going to GDC and for joining us today. This is a wonderful wrap-up. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Ian.
Thank you, Ian. Dude, a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Thank you. We'll see you in the future.
Bye-bye.